Asia's demographic shifts are poised to redefine the world order, with the region's most populous nations, India, China, and Indonesia, at the epicenter. These three countries are leading global GDP growth projections. And what's more, Asia Pacific is home to more than 2 billion people under the age of 30. The world looks at these young people as the region's engine of growth and a generation who can realize the economic potential of the Asian century. But while the numbers are promising, they don't quite tell the whole story.
My name is Sruthi Gottipati, and I'm a journalist and media professional with experience reporting on 5 continents.
I'm on a journey across India, China, and Indonesia to investigate the challenges young people in these nations face and uncover the solutions that can keep them on track.
像去年的总和生育率已经降到了1.1以下，它已经降到很严重的程度。
China's fertility rate has been plummeting, while India and Indonesia are not far behind. What is being done to resolve this?
Government is providing salary increment after second and third birth of the child.
然后如果养小孩，他只能得到一个情绪价值的话，我们完全可以养宠物啊。
It looks like young people in China, India, and Indonesia just aren't making enough babies and may not even want to. So how are these countries going to address their biggest demographic challenges? What are they going to do to encourage young people to have kids?
Having a baby is a pretty personal choice, right? But governments have a specific magic number in mind, 2.1. That's the average number of children a woman needs to have for a country's population to be replaced from one generation to the next. I'm at a private women and children's hospital in Beijing. The number of babies being born here has been on the decline. The wards here are mostly empty, an increasingly common phenomenon in maternity units across the country, with reports of many closing or downsizing. In 2023, no less than 15 hospitals ceased their obstetric delivery services, followed by 10 more in the first quarter of 2024 alone, a trend that has been linked to China's plummeting fertility rate. China used to be the most populous nation in the world, but lost that title to India in 2023, the year its population shrank by 2 million. The country's fertility rate in 2023 was 1.0. In fact, the figure has been in rapid decline for over 5 decades. To get a better sense of how this downward trend will affect the country in years to come, I'm speaking with demographer Dr. Yifu Xian, who is based in the US. He's written extensively on China's demographic shifts. Why is the fertility rate declining in China?
中国的就是一定要结婚才生孩子，今年的结婚多，那么下一年的出生也是多。中国的结婚是不断减少，也就导致中国的出生也不断减少。
Fewer Chinese couples have been getting hitched since 2013, though there was an increase of more than 845,000 registered marriages in 2023. Analysts link this to the post-pandemic wedding rebound. Why are so many young people choosing to remain single in China?
中国的青年失业率很高，比如说中国去年中国官方公布了超过20%、21%的青年失业率，成家表很难，所以很多人就宁愿就一个人过去，物质上养不起。
Low marriage and fertility rates are also a legacy of China's decades-long one-child policy that ended in 2015.
在1980年的独生子女政策导致的选择性堕胎，现在接生人到了结婚年龄了，很多男性很难找到媳妇。
In 2005, during the peak of the gender imbalance problem, it was reported that 11 provinces had more than 120 boys to 100 girls. The nation's average then was 119 boys to 100 girls. Along with that, more women started pursuing college degrees. Between 2010 to 2020, the number of female undergraduate students went up by almost 50% in China. Those pursuing master's degrees more than doubled over the same period. Their career is now their focus, and setting up a family secondary. The average age of a woman having her first child increased from 26.4 in 2019 to 27.4 in 2022.
What are the economic implications, not just for China, but for the whole world?
China currently accounts for more than 17% of the global population and is the world's largest manufacturing economy and exporter of goods.
中国目前是世界工厂，但是去年中国只出生900万，中国的劳动力在萎缩，会导致全球的通货膨胀，因为中国的产品这个价格在提高，那么中国的世界工厂的地位就会慢慢的消失，很多产业链正在转移到越南、转移到印度、转移到非洲，对世界的地缘政治跟地缘经济的都有重大的影响。
If the declining fertility rate trend continues, China's population of 1.4 billion is projected to shrink by more than half in 75 years' time. The country's working-age population, which currently powers over 16% of the global GDP, will then fall to just 210 million, which is 1/5 of the figure in 2023. In recent years, India has been touted as the next China due to its economic growth potential. The country's population currently stands at over 1.4 billion people, making up more than 1/6 of the world's inhabitants. But is it seeing signs of similar demographic challenges down the line? India and China had nearly identical fertility rates in 1971, but the decline in India has been more gradual. It took 35 years to experience the same reduction that occurred over just 6 years in China. I'm meeting Professor Lakshmana, who can explain the phenomenon happening in the country. So what is the marriage trend like in India?
Marriageable age is increasing. Earlier, maybe 22 to 23. Now, we may say 28 to 30. That is an emerging trend among the boys and girls.
And there's no better way to find out why than to jump into ground zero of a billion-dollar industry.
There are 8 to 10 million weddings happening in India every year. It's worth $130 billion US. I think some of that is briskly being spent on these gorgeous saris around me. So I'm going to go check out the action. So you have a wedding, lots of occasions for these saris. Who's getting married right now?
Her daughter first.
How old is your daughter?
25.
25.
But we all got married at 20, 21, no?
Why do you think that change is happening?
Girls are getting financially independent before they get married. They are enjoying their freedom. We weren't like that. We were like, we'll get settled together.
Yes.
See, our concept was that.
You wanted to build a family together first.
Actually, girls ಗಾದ್ರೆ 24 okay, boys ಗೆ 26 okay. ಮುಂಚೆ actually ನಾನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ earlier ಆಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು.
So how old were you when you got married?
19.
19. You?
20.
For your daughter, what age would you like her to get married?
24, 25.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, 25, 26.
From my conversations with these ladies, it seems like young Indians still want to get married, but at a later age. Compared to China's latest statistic of 1.0, India's fertility rate decreased to below the replacement level of 2.1 in 2021. It currently stands at 2.0. What are the consequences of a declining fertility rate?
Now India is reaching demographic dividend because of the increasing working age population. But by 2030, the elderly population will be double.
The proportion of India's working age citizenry who are between 20 and 64 years old is expected to peak at 62% of the overall population by 2039. This means the country has a small window of opportunity, 14 years to be exact, to capitalize on its young productive population and accelerate its economic growth before it becomes an aging society. Like India, Indonesia is looking to reap the economic benefits of a demographic dividend. Its productive population currently makes up 69% of the country's inhabitants and is projected to peak in the next decade.
Saya ingin berbagi visi, berbagi mimpi besar, berbagi cita-cita besar bangsa ini.
The country announced its goal to become the 5th largest economy in the world by 2045, a vision they've dubbed Golden Indonesia 2045. But it seems the nation is facing a similar demographic trajectory like India and China, thanks to a successful family planning campaign that was implemented in 1968 to curb overpopulation. Families then were encouraged to stop at 2 children, and the country's fertility rate went down from almost 6 children per woman in 1968 to 2 as of 2023. I'm meeting Dr. Visana, an economist and demographer, to see if a continuing decline would be cause for alarm.
China's fertility rate is declining. India is under the ideal replacement rate right now. Is Indonesia next?
Unlike any other countries who are having a sharp decline in fertility rate, in Indonesia, our fertility rate is quite steady in the past 5-10 years. We call it smooth landing in terms of the total fertility rate. It means that our population growth also will not decline that fast. We have a huge bulk. It means that we have a larger productive workforce in the labor market. And we have a smaller family now, on average like 2.2 children per household. According to the latest population projections in Indonesia, we will expect that the total fertility rate in Indonesia will be 1.9 in 2045. So it's still close to 2. So the government doesn't have any specific policy targeting this lowering fertility rate because government trying to focus on enhancing the current dividend that we earned so far. But the fertility rate across Indonesia actually quite different. We still have a higher fertility rate, for example, like several provinces in eastern part of Indonesia. But at the same time, the other provinces, like in Java, they already start experiencing aging population.
In 2020, the fertility rate of 5 provinces fell below the replacement level of 2.1, with Yogyakarta, Jakarta, and Bali amongst them. But 26 other provinces saw above replacement rates of 2.2 to almost 3.
Why is there such a variation between provinces?
The economic growth across regions are totally different. In the western part of Indonesia, because the economic condition is higher, the proportion of population with higher education also higher, then this fertility rate a little bit lower, and the delaying marriage is more prominent in that particular area.
But how can Indonesia ensure similar economic growth across the country? Dr. Visana explains that bridging the divide in development across provinces will help.
At this moment, we have a lot of young population. However, we need to provide better jobs that contribute to better income for them. So government trying to tackle it indirectly through different sectors like education or health. The overall national objective is trying to maintain the quality of life, the welfare of this population.
If this takes place successfully to meet the targets of Golden Indonesia 2045, less developed provinces like East Nusa Tenggara could be uplifted. The province's latest Human Development Index score of 69 is trailing behind the country's national average of 75.
Clearly, governments have a lot at stake when it comes to the number of children couples are having. But how are young people approaching this huge life decision? And can governments even really influence this big decision?
I've learned that currently the Indonesian government is not implementing any national policy to tackle its slowly declining fertility rate. I wonder if their lack of concern has anything to do with the mindsets of young Indonesians themselves. To find out, I've traveled a couple of hours outside of the city to this village. I'm at a traditional baby shower. I think it's called a tinkerban. I'm decked out in my batik shirt, so let's go check it out. A tinkerban is a traditional Javanese ceremony for women who are in their 7th month of pregnancy. Yuli and Ahmed have been living in this village all their lives. Yuli is a homemaker while Ahmed works as a driver. They are expecting their first child, and they've invited me to join in on the festivities.
This looks like quite a spread.
Ini makanannya nanti dibagikan buat Mbah Dukun sama tetangga-tetangga.
Do you know whether you're going to have a boy or a girl?
Cewek.
Oh, congratulations. That's wonderful news.
Yang penting besok lahirannya lancar.
The ceremony is steeped in rich Javanese customs and rituals.
So I don't know exactly what's going on, but apparently the father-to-be has to go to different houses and fill this pot with water. He's not supposed to tell people. I'm also not supposed to ask the father-to-be questions while he's on this quest. So I'm trying to be discreet, but I have so many questions.
Now that the water has been collected, the Siraman bathing ritual can take place. This ritual is meant to symbolically purify the parents-to-be in the hope of bringing about a smooth delivery. And as with most celebrations, the day ends with a big feast with neighbors and friends.
At what age do you plan to get married?
27.
If you get married, do you plan to have children? And if so, at what age?
Kira-kira di umur 29-30-an. Kalau umur udah matang, terus nanti anak itu bisa jadi keturunan, nanti bisa jadi ini untuk nerusin usaha-usaha.
Saya pengen punya anak umur 28 tahun. Pengen punya anak 2, cewek cowok, biar bisa menemani saya dan bisa merawat saya jika saya sakit.
The celebrations are almost over, but I want to have one last chat with the expectant couple.
Setelah menikah, saya memang memutuskan segera punya anak. Karena nanti kalau anak saya sudah agak besar, nanti rencananya dititipkan ke ibu, nanti saya bekerja.
How many children do you plan to have?
2 anak cukup, cowok sama cewek.
Punya anaknya 2 aja cukup, soalnya takutnya nanti ke depannya semakin banyak anak kan semakin banyak kebutuhan, takutnya nanti nggak bisa memenuhi.
To get a better sense of the cultural trends and sentiments within the country, I'm meeting with population and development researcher Dr. Setya Naluri.
Marriage and having children is still a norm, widely accepted in Indonesia for all generations, including the young people.
So what are the factors behind why family plays such a strong role in Indonesian life?
Culturally, Indonesia, in all religion, all ethnicities, we still have a strong family values. That's what unifying Indonesia. Urban and rural individuals have the same view. In rural areas, it's stronger because they are less individualistic and parents relying on children for the old age security. But the young people, they also understand the balancing between cost and benefit of marriage, having children. They probably tend to delay the timing of marriage until they find the suitable, partner for them.
Dr. Setyon Alluri shares more about what the Indonesian government is doing.
They're now focusing on the welfare of family and children.
One example is the Maternal and Child Welfare Law, which was passed in 2024. The provisions under this law include the extension of paid maternity leave from 3 months to a maximum of 6 months and protection from termination by an employer during this period. But Dr. Setyon Alluri feels these are not enough.
Having care infrastructure is important because women show their, the lion's share of the unpaid care work. The past 2 decades, we see a relatively stagnant female labor force participation rates at around 51%. A lot of research actually have a conclusive conclusion that marriage and childbearing is actually the most significant factor that affects women to drop out from the labor force. And this is actually also signifies the agenda for, investment in care economy.
Examples of efforts to boost the care infrastructure could include the setup of more childcare facilities and fee subsidies for them. But for one group of young people, no amount of subsidies or government policies will convince them to become parents.
I'm on my way to meet Yenny. She's part of a local child-free group. Marriage is very much part of the social fabric here. So I'm wondering how things are going for her, going against the grain.
Yeah.
So what are you all doing here?
I'm in tea making workshop right now. This is my first time.
Oh, wow. Do you try new things all the time?
Almost every weekend. I'm searching something new that I can try. Maybe I will find something that I like, new activities or new hobbies.
Do you do any of these activities with your husband as well?
Not really, but my husband loves playing games so much, so we need to find like a game that we can play together.
33-year-old Yenny met her husband on a dating app. After being together for 5 years, they got married in 2023, but have no plans to expand their family. In Indonesia, the percentage of childless couples like Yenny and her husband is low. But it has risen from 7% in 1993 to 9% in 2020.
How is the child-free lifestyle viewed more generally in the broader Indonesian society?
I don't think that it is quite positive. Many people automatically think that when they marry, they must have a child. It's not really safe to talk about it out loud. Just for immediate people or the close friends, I think it's enough. Because every time the couple with child talk negatively about us, it making us feel like if I be the parents, maybe I can be someone like them. To talk negatively about others people's choices that different with you, it kind of make me push away from couple with child actually.
And that is why she and her husband are part of an online child-free group which connects individuals like themselves and gives them a platform to share their opinions.
It's like have a good communities out there that can support us and can channel us to each other so we can have many friends so we don't feel alone also.
I'm in one of China's most affluent cities, and I'm meeting Xiaoying and Zan, a couple whose choice of lifestyle is known as DINK, dual income, no kids. They've invited me for a home-cooked lunch, and I want to do my part before I dig in. I hope my enthusiasm makes up for my culinary skills. Zan, does this look okay to you?
哦，还是很不错的，切的还可以。
That's kind. I have zero chopping game. The couple got married in 2023, a few years after graduating from university and starting work. They are among the estimated 188 million DINK families in China today, making up more than 40% of the country's married couples.
我们的菜好了，可以吃饭了。哦，这个是糖醋排骨啊，然后因为我媳妇儿比较爱吃甜口的，然后我就在互联网上学了食谱，这个做了从以前的做的不好吃，到现在的差不多做了100多次吧。
Sounds like true love. I can see why you made this hundreds of times. It's really good. When was it that you, as a couple, had that first conversation about whether you want to have kids or not?
我是一开始就是丁克，然后我在那个他跟我告白的第一天晚上，我就跟他说，像那个什么老一辈说的，就是多一双筷子就可以养活，就随便养养啊什么的，在我们看来是行不通的。对于生养一个小孩来说，可能需要花费可能是数百万元的一个金额。然后可能把他养到18岁，他可能都还并没有办法去回报你。我们觉得可能这个经济上是对我们来说是不值得去生养一个小孩的。
他是一个比较负责的人，他觉得如果有了小孩，他就要给他小孩一个良好的教育，然后良好的环境，这需要花很多时间，还有很多精力，很多钱。
这样的话就跟我们的理想背道而驰了，就我们想做的事情可能就再也不会实现。
现在人可以慢慢的出去，充分的享受一下自己的人生。
然后如果养小孩，他只能得到一个情绪价值的话，就我们觉得其实实在是没什么意义。因为如果说是情绪价值的话，我们完全可以养宠物啊。
How do your families react to your decision to not have children?
我以前在结婚之前，我就跟我那个家里人商量了。然后我爸妈的意见，其实他们也觉得无所谓，因为他的责任已经尽到了，把我养育大，他觉得要不要小孩是你的问题。
他们可能以前是很希望我要一个小孩的，但是他们在真实的了解到就是一些各方面的经济压力啊，还有没有人去照顾他，然后可能我自身也并不喜欢小孩的这种种种的考虑上面，他觉得可能不要小孩也是可以接受的。
I loved how they crunched the math and thought about how much money they would need if they wanted to have kids, as well as all the other factors that go into raising a child. Their decision to not have children is not an afterthought. The current cost of raising a child until the age of 18 in China is on average about $75,000. According to a report by a Chinese think tank, this figure is more than 6 times the country's GDP per capita. That ratio is 3 times higher than in Australia and France. Only South Korea is more expensive than China at the moment, relative to its GDP. With this in mind, how is the Chinese government shifting gears to get DINK couples like Xiaoying and Zan to change their minds? To get some answers, I'm meeting with Chen Jian. He used to head the publicity department of the government's National Family Planning Commission and is very familiar with its policies.
3年前，中国政府就出台了一项决定，就是如何让中国人口保持一种均衡发展的一种状态的一个决定。
This amendment to the country's population and family planning law took place in 2021. Chinese couples are now allowed to have up to 3 children. Following this national directive, many provincial governments rolled out local measures to encourage marriage and childbirth.
很多这些省份对生育孩子给予更多的补助，给更多的假期，给更多的包括这个幼儿日托等等，生育期的收入的保障的提供。 都有很多的内容。对于很多家庭来说呢，在中国有很多的习俗，比如说妇女结婚了，她结婚了，她要有彩礼，有的地方还很严重，这彩礼还很高，这对很多的家庭也是个压力。不要让这种习俗成为影响结婚的一些重要的因素，这也都做了一些政策方面的一些要求。
Some local governments are now organizing mass zero-sali weddings where they cover the costs of the event. Chen Jian tells me that a few provinces have also done something quite radical by China's standards, recognizing for the first time the rights of single parents and their children.
四川去年就出台了一项政策，对于这个没有结婚的生育的孩子，也都给予这方面的同等的待遇，这也是一个很重要的一个决定。在此之前如果我们没有通过合法途径结婚生育的孩子上不了户口。
China's household registration system, called hukou, determines a person's eligibility for education, subsidized housing, welfare, and other social services.
从去年呢，四川采取了这样一些政策以后呢，使这个登记更加明确。另外呢，使他们的基本的人权，就他们该享受的这样一些内容都能够得到保障。
Now that we're seeing this kind of policy in Sichuan, what do you think will be the influence of it on the national level?
虽然没有结婚，但他们有孩子，这个现象也很大量的。特别在中国的一些经济发达的地区，包括北京、包括上海包括浙江这个在全国呢，它有可能在其他的省也产生一种仿效中央政府是不是会采取一个统一的这样一些政策的规定和法律的要求？这完全也是有可能性的。
I've learned that India is facing a slow but steady decline in its fertility rate over the past 5 decades. But in such a diverse country, with more than 2,000 ethnic groups and over 100 languages spoken, I wonder if the norms that I've been observing apply across the board. Poonam is the executive director of the Population Foundation of India, one of the nation's leading think tanks in population research and development strategy.
While North India has high fertility rates, several of the other states, South, by and large, has reached replacement level.
In the next 10 years, 1/3 of India's population increase will come from just 2 northern states, Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. Bihar, with a fertility rate that is higher than the country's average of 2, is projected to only dip to the replacement level in 2039. In contrast, Kerala, India's most educated and progressive state in the south, already hit that figure in 1987. This means that the country will face a baby boom and an aging population at the same time.
So how has that divide happened?
South India invested in education, better health systems, effective governance happens. So education, literacy rates for both girls and boys, we've seen an increase at a much earlier time and an educated workforce. While North India, they haven't done well economically, there's a much bigger unmet need for family planning because the services are not there or are limited, or because women don't have agency, having low literacy. The social norms are also more progressive in southern part of the country compared to northern states.
In the northern states of Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, the literacy rate is around 62% and 68% respectively. While in southern states like Kerala and Tamil Nadu, the numbers are 94% and 80%. The total GDP of India's southern states is also 3 times higher than that of its northern states.
I'm really curious to understand that discrepancy between the North and South, because if one population is aging and the other is still a relatively young population, what would that mean in 10, 20 years from now?
So the average age of a person in Kerala is 10 years higher than the average age of a person in North India. So what we're really seeing is not only an aging population in Kerala, but we're also seeing huge migration from Bihar and UP, some of these North Indian states with surplus working age populations, coming to Kerala. So you're going to see a socio-cultural change within these different states. For instance, people are investing in property now from the north in the south, which didn't happen earlier. Migrant labor, they're bringing their families, and also women are coming, moving to different parts of the country. So I see it as an opportunity for greater integration in the country.
In the south of India, where the fertility rate is below the replacement rate, are there any concerns and policies being implemented to change that?
I would say there's limited concern, and we don't have a national population policy that is worrying about the declining population. There's a misconception and misperception, both outside India and within India, that there is a population bomb, which never existed. And that India's population is very high. People still don't quite get the fact that India's fertility is slowing down, but steadily and slowly. Unlike China, our population will continue to grow because of the fact that we have a very large young population in India. We have close to 350 million people who are young, who are either at a reproductive age or will be reaching the reproductive age soon. With the result that we are going, even if they have 1 or 2 children, our population will increase.
Besides Kerala, another Indian state that is experiencing a low fertility rate is Sikkim. It is at a crisis point where the rate has dropped to 1.1. Situated in the Himalayas, Sikkim is home to a distinctive multi-ethnic society whose cultural heritage is protected under India's constitution. Now, with the lowest fertility rate in the country, the state government has expressed serious concern that their unique identity will soon come under threat. I'm meeting Bikash, who is from the Sikkim Chief Minister's office and was involved in the 2023 rollout of state policies to tackle the low fertility rate.
What tools have been deployed to raise Sikkim's fertility rate?
Public sector employees, they will get 1 increment after having second child. And in third child, they will get 2 increment. 1 increment is equals to 3% of salary hike in their gross salary.
So if I'm a government employee and I have my second child, I would get a 3% salary hike.
Yeah.
And if I had a third child, I'd get a 6% hike in my salary. Is this for both men and women?
Yeah, both men and women. And those who are not in the government sector, they are also getting like 10,000 per month as a childcare allowance for 1 year.
In 2023, Sikkim became the first state in India to incentivize couples to have at least 2 or more children. Paid maternity leave was also increased from 6 months to a year. There were even subsidies for IVF treatments amounting to more than $3,000.
And till now, more than 200 couples have got benefited, they got a child. Also, there are more than 150 couples who are undergoing for this treatment.
It might seem strange that in a country like India, which has the most number of people on the planet, that there's a small Himalayan state that's desperately trying to make its citizens have more children. This state is really trying to preserve its culture, its way of life, and in order to do so, that might mean making sure that people are having children, even if they have to pay them to do so.
Over 2,500 kilometers away, there's a group whose beliefs are the polar opposite of the Sikkim government.
I came across this group called Child Free India. They have bases both in Bangalore and Delhi. On Facebook alone, they have 19,000 followers, and it's quite an engaged community.
Some of the posts on this page are quite humorous, but the underlying views seem pretty unconventional. I'm joining one of the group's meetings, which they hold occasionally in the city.
So welcome to our meeting.
Hi.
So hi everyone. Today we are meeting again after a long time. There are just two newcomers. So can you just tell how you found this group? What made you feel like coming today?
So a friend of mine actually sent that post about how people were meeting today. So I did get on the antinatalism Child Free India page, and then I started reading it, and it felt like it resonated with me.
Founders Anugrah, Prashant, and Pratima started this group in 2019.
A large amount of people are just having kids because they're conditioned to do it. You're a human, you have to reproduce. I don't agree with that.
I think basically it's nothing but a labor for capitalism and insurance for parents. That's all it is.
So what are the goals of this group?
In Child Free India, one of our objectives is to build a network of all people, questioning the stereotypes. This is a great moral support. If not, they'll not have the courage to talk in their family.
What do you see as the trend in terms of the child-free movement?
When we started 5 years back, we thought we'll be stigmatized, and we were surprised more and more people are complimenting us. Especially in urban India, it's catching up, and more people are opting for a child-free life. But not in rural India.
Through WhatsApp, we have a nationwide network of more than 1,500 people of different states. And we have had offline physical meetings in Bangalore, in Delhi, in metro cities.
Because I am Gen Z, I'd say most of us are vocal about what choices we want in life. When I spoke about this with my friends, the ones who are it's your body, it's your choice, and they don't want to have kids either, they're 100% okay with it. I don't think the previous generation had that luxury.
The child-free lifestyle has not taken hold everywhere in China, even if its plummeting fertility rate indicates otherwise. In fact, there are some who are pursuing the exact opposite.
So I was curious what it's like for a big family in China. It wasn't easy, but I managed to track one down. Oh, hi, ni hao. Is your dad around?
Hi, hello.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Chen Hao has invited me to his suburban home an hour's drive outside the city.
This is pretty stunning.
And it looks like I've arrived just in time for some family gardening.
Hey, can you show me how to pick the berries?
Yes. 这个绿的是不能吃的，然后这种黑的这个可以吃，很好吃，可以试一试。
Is this good or not really? Yes, it's good.
My helpful assistant is 10-year-old Peirong, who is Chen Hao's second youngest. His other children are 18, 13, and 7 years old. He and his wife are business owners.
When did you decide you wanted a big family?
我小时候就有兄弟姐妹，所以我的概念里边可能就是对孩子来说，他们有兄弟姐妹，可能最开始就想，有个男孩有个女孩，然后后边又来了一个，但是我们也都欣然接受了，就是带更多的孩子，比带一个孩子在经历这个部分要好很多。然后这3个孩子他们彼此之间，他们就会有一个社交啊，会有一个他们彼此之间有一个关系。其实不需要我们父母太多的介入，其实我们也面临我们的压力，但是我们在面临压力的时候，我们可以就是平衡掉它。就是每一个孩子的出生呢，我们都觉得是一份很珍贵的礼物。我们自己呢，也是我们自己，就是反观我们自己内心，就是它是一种就是自省的一个过程吧。就是我们跟着孩子又成长了一遍。 对我们来说还是一个挺宝贵的经历的。
Chengdu and his wife found a way to make their big family work. But it's clear at the same time that they have the financial means to do so.
As I've reported across China, India, and Indonesia, I've realized there are two opposing forces, the personal and the political. Demographics may seem like they're about numbers and statistics, about governments coldly calculating their working age populations and cranking up economic growth. But demographics are also about choices, personal choices about marrying and having kids, yes, but also what that means in terms of studying, working, spending your money. If governments don't get this right, they could miss becoming a developed economy. If individuals don't, they could lose out on living the life they want.